Good morning everyone and welcome back to another War Thunder video, and today I thought I'd take a look at something, well, something that hasn't really been covered in a long time, and it's a depressing subject. That's right, the Panther 2. Now, the Panther 2 was the staple of higher tier gameplay back in the day, and it suffered a long, hard, strenuous life during the game's 5 or 6 year runtime. Now, when the Panther 2 was originally first added to the game, I believe it was actually on the original release tree for the German ground forces, it had a battle rating of 6.7 alongside the Tiger II-H, and as I said, it was basically the go-to medium, fast, rapid response tank for the German ground forces players fighting the Russians, which would have been the only two nations available at the time. With the addition of the British and their APDS, armor-piercing discarding sabot rounds, and the up tier to 7.3, the Panther 2 was pretty much considered done. It had done the best it could, and now it was time to go to the history books as one of the old favourite tanks, one of the ones that we enjoy having in our hangar, enjoy looking at, but doesn't get played out particularly much. Now, when I say this thing hasn't had a lot of love recently, that's not just on my channel. Hell, I don't even remember. I may have done a video on this tank in the past, but I certainly don't remember when I did, if I did one. But I'm referring to the content creators in general. The Panther 2 was one of their favourites, and it was one of everybody's favourite. It was the Leopard 1 at a lower BR. In fact, the Leopard 1 a whole BR lower. And this is when the Leopard 1 would have been the top tier tank for the Germans, before the addition of the A1A1, before tier 6, before all of that. This was the go-to tank for tier 4/5 ground forces for the Germans. Recently, however, it has been moved down to battle rating 7.0. Now, there are plenty of people out there who will refuse to touch this thing with a 10-foot pole until it is put back to its rightful place of 6.7. I am not one of those people. Despite the fact that this tank used to be my bread and butter, when I was in the Desert Rats, one of War Thunder's squadrons, this was an entirely PS4 squadron by the way, this was my go-to tank. Originally it was the T-32 heavy tank, but when that thing got up-tiered and was no longer allowed in squadron realistic battles, I took the Panther 2 under my wing and used it from then on in, until it itself was up-tiered, as I just said, to 7.3, and that pretty much finished me off as far as squadron realistic battles was concerned anyway. Despite this though, I'm always willing to give it another go, and this is the first game I've played in this tank in, well, I don't even know how long, months, possibly a year or so. As I said, I don't remember ever uploading a video of this thing in the past, so this is going to be a first from me, if that is the case. The Panther 2 uses the 88mm KWK 36, I think that's the right one. The long 88mm gun from the Tiger II is what the Panther 2 uses, which is what basically makes it so different from all the other Panthers. It's also one of the few Panthers to have a decent reverse speed, 14 kilometers per hour, and a really decent amount of gun depression, 8 degrees. What makes this a little bit difficult, however, is the fact that, as you can probably tell, the tank is covered in IR scopes, infrared scopes for not only the commander but the driver as well, which, if they actually worked, would be great, but unfortunately, as far as the gun depression is concerned, they work out more or less as a burden rather than a bonus. The scope on the front of the hull and the light that accompanies it block the gun from going all the way down its 8 degrees of gun depression directly to the 12 of the hull, so you have to angle the gun left or right of said scope in order to get the gun to go all the way down. In a way, this is kind of a good thing, because it means you're forced to angle the hull whilst aiming at a target that may be directly in front of you. But the Panther II's armour has not always been its strongest point. The Schooter turret which the Panther 2 uses, as does the Panther F for that matter, may be stronger than its competitors, the other Panthers, the A, the D, the G, etc., but it's also flatter and less angled. On the one hand, this does mean you get rid of the shot trap, which allowed you to bounce a shell off of the front of a Panther's gun mantlet down into the hull. That's no longer an issue, but it does mean that anything shooting at you is perfectly capable of perforating the front of your turret, damaging your breech, killing your commander, killing your loader, killing your gunner, etc., which is going to give you a very bad time, to say the least. The 88mm gun is, well, I was just about to say it's reliable, but seeing me fail to penetrate a T-95 from the side is not a particularly good argument to make in this regard. Although, in the gun's defence, there are very few things that can penetrate that tank from this sort of angle, even aiming through the lower half of his hull, trying to aim through the tracks. Like that. In hindsight, I probably should have aimed slightly lower, but hey, nobody's perfect. Speaking of nothing or nobody being perfect, the Panther 2 is definitely not perfect. The whole point of this video is to prove that this thing is still somewhat viable. I mean, like I said at the beginning, there are people who won't touch this tank with a 10-foot pole purely because of the memories they have of this tank. It was well loved by a lot of people, and it continues to be well loved by a lot of people. But unfortunately, yes, that is an IS-6. Goodbye, IS-6. But unfortunately, the memory somewhat tarnishes its current BR and its current standing within the meta itself. When this thing was first in the game, and when it was being used at its prime, it was one of the most mobile tanks in the game, with the only exception being the Leopard. But it was definitely the most mobile tank at its BR. That's no longer the case. Since then we've had the T-44-100, which was added at 7.0 as well, so they directly compete with one another. Not only is the T-44 as mobile, if not more mobile, it has a bigger gun, and is lower profile to boot, which basically means you can take advantage of the size of the T-44-100 to be a lot more sneaky, something the Panther 2 is not particularly good at, especially not in close quarters maps. This is quite a small map, but due to my flanking and the fact that the only real opposition I ran into on that flank was a ZSU-57, that didn't turn out to be much of an issue. This may have just been a one-off game, but I think it proves my point. So to sum up, the Panther started off at 6.7, then got moved to 7.3, and is now moved down to 7.0, where it has been for a while now. But, as I said, it's not completely dead. Not yet, anyway. There remains a slight heartbeat, though it's slow, and sadly is dwindling due to the lack of attention this tank now gets. So, let's jump into the hangar and see how well we did, shall we? So for this match we got 4 kills, 2 assists, no deaths. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next War Thunder video. Please like, share and subscribe for more.